What's up, y'all? This your man Alex, and right now I kind of want to do this is gonna be a video response to Spalding 069, who I watched a video of his last night on my phone at work, and he had a top 10 list of his favorite movies from the 80's. And he had some really great movies on there, man, and I just wanted to do a response. And mine is going to be a little different. Uh, his was, uh, top 10 favorite 80's movies that were non-horror. He didn't have any horror movies in it. Mine, I'm going to have a couple horror movies in it because there are some horror movies out of the 80's that I have to put. And this isn't really going to be my favorite 80's movies. Now let me explain what I mean. When I say that these aren't my favorite 80's movies or favorite movies made in the 80's, what I mean is, take Nightmare on Elm Street for example. Nightmare on Elm Street is my favorite movie of all time. It was made came out in '84, but it's not on this list. Even though it's my favorite movie and it's made in the 80's, it's not on this list. And the reason why is because when I watch the Nightmare on Elm Street, it doesn't give me that feeling of, it doesn't take me back to when I was a kid again and living in the 80's. These are movies that when I watch, I just get this rush over me. It's like, oh man, it's like I'm a kid again, growing up in the 80's. Watching this movie made me feel like I could turn on the TV and I could turn the MTV and it's a cool channel again. These are movies that take me back to the 80's, growing up as a kid. I've been alive for 3 decades. I was born in '78, and the 80's by far is my favorite decade in entertainment. And had a lot of great movies. I love the music. Fashion is kind of silly when you look back on it, like, oh, people actually wore that. But these movies aren't really in order. They're just movies that when I watch these movies, they take me back and they make me feel like I'm a kid again, growing up in that time. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I love this movie, man. When I watch this, it just makes me, it takes me back. They want to be rock and rollers, and they're big fans of Van Halen, and Van Halen was big at that time. Check that out. I got my Van Halen CD. But everything in the movie, the way they talk, the way they dress, and it's just a great movie. It takes me back whenever I watch it. Peewees Big Adventure. I must have watched this movie so many times when it first came out, and I used to watch Pee-wee's Playhouse Saturday mornings. Yeah, I used to watch it. So I guess I was kind of a fan of Pee Wee Herman. I thought the show was entertaining. With Cherry and Cowboy Curtis and all that. But I thought this movie is hilarious, man. This is probably my favorite Tim Burton movie. And about Pee Wee Herman, his bike gets stolen, and for the whole movie he's trying to find his bike. He takes this journey across the country and runs into Large Marge, and he makes friends with like this criminal on the run, and I love this movie, man. It takes me back when I watch it. Be sure and tell him Large Marge sent you. Revenge of the Nerds. Now, this is another movie that, I enjoy so much. Probably my favorite college movie. This is a movie that probably was a little bit too grown for me at my age back then, but my parents let me watch it, and I watched it all the time. And Uh, my favorite, my favorite part, was when they was having those, like the Olympics or whatever, those Olympic games. Here we go. Me and Xander about to break it down for you. All right, you ready? Clap your hands, everybody, and everybody clap your hands. We lambda, 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 and Omega move. Now we've come here on stage tonight to do our show for you. We got a rock and rhythm and a high-tech sound that'll make you move your body down to the ground. We got Poindexter on the violin, and Lewis and Gilbert will be joining in. We got Booker Presley on the mean guitar, and a little old rap by me, Lamar. We got Takashi beating on his gong. The boys in the moves are clapping along. And just when you thought you seen it all, I need to finish the rest of this video for y'all. I'm all out of breath, man. Now this next movie is, let me just show you. Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master. Now, out of all the Elm Street movies, this is the one that takes me back to the 80s, being a kid in the 80s again, because this movie is when, in my opinion, was the peak of Nightmare on Elm Street, the peak of its, popularity. And, watching this movie, it just reminds me of MTV, when MTV used to be good. And MTV had a special on this movie that came out, and Freddy Krueger would host videos.
Mirror, mirror in my hand, who's the most gruesome dude in the land?
Ready? Ready?
Oh, what a pity. 7 years bad luck for my new friend.
Oh, Mr. Krueger. Fred, old boy. Have you heard about this new Freddy Krueger movie, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master?
And there are scenes in the movie like when Joey is watching MTV in his bedroom, and the music in the movie were were from videos that they would play on MTV. And this was the very first Elm Street movie that I saw in the theater. And watching this movie just takes me back, and it just reminds me of that time. Now this next movie is just awesome, classic to me, and that is The Breakfast Club by John Hughes. Now this got the Brat Pack. That's 80s right there, man. How many movies were these kids in together in the 80s? You had Molly Ringwald was in several movies. Emilio Estevez and Judd Nelson, and Anthony Michael Hall. Anthony Michael Hall was always a geek in a movie, and this is an awesome movie, man. And most of these movies, the thing that I relate to the most, or takes me back to the 80s times, is the music. And this movie has one of the most awesome themes to any movie, and that's the Simple Minds song, Don't You Forget About Me. And just an awesome song, man. I love when Bender at the end of the movie walks off and he throws that fist in the air and he freezes. I love that. Breakfast Club. Now this next movie right here makes me, in its original form, I say its original form, you'll know what I mean when I show you, takes me back to when I was a kid again in the 80s, and that movie is Return of the Jedi. Man, this is my favorite Star Wars movie. It's the first one I can remember seeing. My mom took me to see this like 4 times in the theater. There was one time where at the end of the movie, there was these people with these huge garbage, these huge garbage cans, and they had Star Wars toys that they were giving out to all the kids after the movie. And I got me something pretty lame. But every time I watch this movie, man, it just takes me back to when I was a kid in the 80s. And there are some things that George Lucas did to the movie that gets me upset because of that. Like, taking out the Ewok song, man. You know, I said earlier that a lot of these things, music is a big thing in these movies. Music takes me back in a lot of these movies, and the Ewok song was one of the songs on there. You know, at the end of the movie when everything is all happy, and you hear them singing, and little dude is beating on the helmets, and they're all dancing around. They got rid of that, and it just don't have that same effect no more. But Return of the Jedi, awesome movie that makes me feel like a kid again in the 80s. Now this next movie is really cheesy, but hey man, it takes me back. And that movie is Mannequin. This is, Kim Cattrall was hottie in this movie, and man, Andrew McCarthy. This used to be on TV a lot, and back to the music again. That Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now. Whenever I hear that, it doesn't even have to be the movie playing. Whenever I hear that song, I just have flashbacks of the 80s. So Mannequin, about the guy working at a mall finds a mannequin, and she comes to life, and she only comes to life when he's around. So there'll be times when he'll be kissing on her, and somebody will walk in the room and he's kissing a dummy. She's the dummy. And this guy, I can't remember the actor's name, but Hollywood, Hollywood and his, funny glasses and silly looking flat top. But anyway, Mannequin. Awesome 80s movie, just an awesome movie. Doesn't even have to have a date on it, it's just awesome. And that's The Lost Boys. Now this movie has awesome music in it. Cry Little Sister song. Let me tell you, you want to talk about being taken back to the 80s. When the movie starts out and you see the Warner Brothers symbol and Cry Little Sister, and then the beat kicks in and you see the shot of the water, and then the music comes on, you see the Lost Boy, thou shalt not fall, and then you show the Ferris wheel and all that. Every time I see that shot, I feel like a broken record. Takes me back to the 80s. Takes me back to being a kid again. Every time I see that shot, I don't know, I just love that shot in the music, and it's just like, oh man, I'm like a kid again watching this movie. But anyway, and it's got the two Corys in it, and Spalding 069 said, he put out a couple movies with the Corys, and he talked about, this is 80s. And the two Corys, Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, that was 80s. They was like a phenomenon in the 80s. If you could get Corey Feldman in a movie or Corey Haim in a movie, then your movie was gold. But if you got them in your movie together, you was triple platinum. This movie right here, every time I watch it, it takes me back, and that is Legend. My case is all tore up, but Legend. And the reason why is that Tangerine Dream soundtrack. I really liked this movie back in the day. I still do. But, back in the day watching this, I enjoyed it a lot. And every time I hear that Tangerine Dream soundtrack, it just takes me back. And the director's cut of this, there's a director's cut where they take out Tangerine Dream soundtrack and they put like James Horner music. I can't watch that version because that's not the version that I grew up with. It's just hard to watch it. And I remember back in school there was this girl that I kind of had a crush on, and she was a big fan of this movie, and she used to draw the unicorns in this movie. So what I did was I drew a picture of darkness Lord Darkness and gave it to her, which is kind of weird. Like, here's a picture of the devil. Here, I thought you might like this. The Monster Squad. Now, the Monster Squad, this was me as a kid. You know, the Monster Squad, if there was a real thing, I'd be in it because that was me as a kid. You know, I was real big into monsters, and that's just what I did. Drew monsters and talked about monsters, and that's what these kids did. And between this and Goonies, a lot of people like Goonies is, you know, as a kid, that's like some childhood movie. But, you know, between this and Goonies, I'd have to pick this one because I related to this more, you know, with the whole monster theme. And out of all the John Hughes movies, this is the one that it takes me back the most, and that is 16 Candles. Even though I like Breakfast Club more than this movie, this one for some reason takes me back even more. It brings me closer to those times of being a kid in the 80s. And like I said, Molly Ringwald, Anthony Michael Hall in it again. And Long Duck Dome, Automobile, No More Yankee, My Wanky. But there's a shot at the end of the movie when Molly Ringwald and the other guy, when they're sitting on the table, they're on the table and they got the cake, the birthday cake in the middle of them, and they're about to kiss and they're talking and that music is playing. That shot and that music, every time I see that, my brain teleports to the past. And I feel like a broken record because I keep saying the same things over and over. It takes me back. But it does, you know, for some reason. I don't know. You know, the music. 16 Candles. This video is going on long enough, but I am on my last movie. Now, I said that these aren't in no order, but I saved this one for last because if they were in order, this would be the #1 movie. And that is Back to the Future. Now, Back to the Future, every time I watch this, man, there's like the nostalgia is in the air, man. I love Back to the Future. The first one. I love them all, but the first one. My mother took me to see this movie 7 times in the theater. She had the soundtrack and was always listening to it. And Huey Lewis and the News, you know, was big in the 80s. And every time I hear like the Power of Love song or especially the end of the movie. A lot of these movies, the ending of the movie is what sticks with me for some reason. You know, all of these movies, I could watch the credits. I watch the credits and listen to the music. But the final shot of the movie, you know, when it's like, hey Doc, what are you doing? You know, you better back up. We don't have enough room to hit 88. And you know, roads, where we going? We don't need roads. Do 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 do. Sorry, I had to do that. And the Huey Lewis song comes on. This takes me back, man. And you like that, did you? Back to the Future would be my #1 favorite 80s movie. And just takes me back, man. This has gone on long enough, and I need to go upstairs, and I got a video uploading on the computer, and I need to check out what's going on. So, thanks for watching. If you watch, make sure you check out Spalding069's video. Go sub his channel. Dude is hilarious to me, man. I love listening to him talk because he just cracks me up. But alright, y'all, thanks for watching if you watch, and peace. Do 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 do.